In 53 BC, the most disciplined machine in the ancient world marched confidently into the east. Legions that had crushed Gaul, commanders who believed no enemy could stand before Roman steel, eagles glinting beneath the desert sun. Yet by the end of the campaign, Rome suffered one of its most humiliating defeats, not against a larger empire or fortified walls, but against horsemen who refused to fight conventionally. How did the unstoppable legions collapse at Carrhae? How did the Republic, master of siege and sword, fall to arrows and dust?
At the center stood Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome and member of the first triumvirate alongside Caesar and Pompey. Wealth he had, influence he had, glory that belonged to others. To rival Caesar's conquests in Gaul, Crassus sought war in the east. His target, the Parthian Empire, a realm stretching across Mesopotamia and Persia, wealthy from trade and defended by cavalry. Rome underestimated them. For centuries, Roman doctrine had been simple and devastatingly effective. Disciplined heavy infantry, tight formations, relentless advance. The legionary was a fortress in motion, shield locked to shield, short swords stabbing in brutal rhythm. Rome conquered by closing distance. But the Parthians did not fight that way. Their general, Surena, commanded an army without heavy infantry or rigid battle lines. Two forces dominated the field: horse archers and cataphracts. The horse archers were masters of mobility. Lightly armored, riding swift steppe horses, they circled the enemy endlessly, loosing arrows with lethal precision. They did not charge or hold ground, they flowed. Then came the cataphracts, heavily armored cavalry encased in iron, both rider and horse protected in scale armor. When they charged, they struck like a hammer against already weakened lines.
But Parthian brilliance was more than tactics. It was logistics and terrain. Crassus led roughly 40,000 men deep into Mesopotamia, away from rivers, into open desert plains, ignoring advice for safer routes. He sought speed and decisive battle. Surena gave him exactly that, on Parthian terms. Near Carrhae, under the blazing sun, Roman scouts reported dust clouds on the horizon. The legions formed their traditional squares, shields raised, prepared to absorb a frontal assault. But none came. Instead, Parthian horse archers circled, arrows falling like rain, unceasing. They had brought thousands of extra arrows on camels, resupplying constantly. Roman shields could block a volley, but not an endless storm. Romans tried to advance, the horsemen retreated effortlessly. They tried to charge, the enemy dissolved into distance. They tried to hold position, arrows continued. This was warfare without contact, a battle without collision. Then came the psychological blow. Publius Crassus, the general's son, led a cavalry detachment to chase the elusive enemy, exactly what Surena wanted. The Parthians feigned retreat, drawing him far from the main army. Once isolated, cataphracts turned and crushed him. Publius was killed, his head displayed to the Roman lines. Morale cracked. Legionaries trained for close combat were dying without striking a single decisive blow. Heat, thirst, exhaustion, and the unrelenting whistle of arrows broke their famed discipline. By nightfall, thousands lay dead or wounded. The next day brought failed negotiations. Crassus himself was killed during a parley. Rome had lost perhaps 20,000 men, another 10,000 were captured. Sacred legionary standards, eagles, were taken, a disgrace unimaginable. Carrhae was not simply a Roman failure, it was a lesson written in sand. The Roman system excelled at structured battles, sieges, and set-piece engagements. Against infantry, Rome was supreme. Against static enemies, unstoppable. But Parthians did not play that game. They weaponized mobility, distance, and patience. They exploited terrain, wide plains ideal for cavalry, and Roman rigidity, attacking.
Weakness, not strength. Rome had expected a contest of brute strength. Parthia delivered a contest of systems. Yet Parthian methods were not invincible. Horse archers required open ground. Dense forests or mountains limited mobility. Prolonged sieges favored infantry-heavy armies like Rome. Without space, cataphracts lost momentum. Later Roman commanders adapted, incorporating more cavalry and flexible tactics. Rome would recover its lost standards through diplomacy and pressure. But at Carrhae, adaptation came too late. The deeper truth, power is conditional. Rome was not defeated because it was weak, but because it assumed its strength applied everywhere. Crassus believed discipline was universal. Surena proved warfare is environmental. The desert favored speed over armor, range over formation, fluidity over rigidity.
Carrhae was more than a battle. It was revelation. An empire that conquered the Mediterranean learned that beyond familiar lands lay enemies who fought by different rules. Ignore them and you bleed. What destroyed Rome at Carrhae? Parthian arrows? Crassus's ambition? Rome's inability to adapt? Likely all three. History punishes complacency, not strength. The legions would march again, Rome would endure, but the lesson echoed for generations. Dominance in one system does not guarantee survival in another. In war, as in power, victory belongs not to the strongest, but to the force best suited to the battlefield. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient warfare and want more stories of strategy, ambition, and empire, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Was Carrhae Rome's greatest humiliation, or simply its harshest lesson? Let me know what you think.